Welcome to the Funnel Reboot Podcast, brought to you by Marketing What's New. Let's get into today's show.
Hey, Glenn here. Welcome to Funnel Reboot. Today we're going to be talking about artificial intelligence. And I'm really glad you've joined because we have an authority on the subject. The guest we're hearing from graduated with a journalism degree from the Scripps School at Ohio University. And a few years afterward, he founded the marketing agency PR 2020, now known as Ready North. In 2016, he founded the Marketing AI Institute. The idea for this organization came from what he saw as AI began impacting his own agency. And he thought that the only way that marketers like him could work alongside of AI would be by first better understanding its capabilities. Part of the vision of this organization is to educate marketers, and they do that through an annual event. In 2019, they held their inaugural Marketing AI conference, MAICON. Now, it was on pause during lockdowns, but it came back, and I had the privilege of attending it in 2022. Also in 2022, he and co-author Mike Kaput published the book we're talking about, Marketing Artificial Intelligence. The book draws on years of research and dozens of interviews with AI marketers, executives, engineers, and entrepreneurs. He has also authored the Marketing Performance Blueprint and the Marketing Agency Blueprint. Through his podcast and as a conference speaker, our guest makes AI approachable and actionable for marketers. He and his family live in Cleveland, Ohio, and I'm very happy to introduce to you Paul Roetzer. I'm really glad to welcome Paul Roetzer. Welcome to the show, Paul.
It is great to be here.
Thank you. You are a third-time author now. This is hard to believe. What is the title of your latest book?
Marketing Artificial Intelligence, AI Marketing, and the Future of Business. We went bigger thinking on the subtitle, expanded it out a little bit.
Wow. And there's something to be said for artificial intelligence, which has been around for quite some time. But if we look at the last decade or so, you're not the only one who's got this kind of lofty language. I'm thinking of Sundar Pichai, the CEO of Google. What has he been saying about AI?
The most important thing humanity has ever worked on. So it's I use that quote quite often in talks. So before we wrote the book, it was a quote that I would use to ground people in the significance of this, that it's not just me, some other fellow marketer saying it matters. When you looked at companies like Google, and we get into Microsoft and Amazon in the book as well, and try and ground people to the significance that the leaders of the biggest tech companies in the world feel AI has. And so he says that it's more profound than electricity or fire to humanity, that it is the fundamental driving force of our future, basically. And he uses that quote multiple times. It wasn't a one-time thing. He uses variations of it on stage all the time. So it's I felt that was a good way to lead the book off.
It sure is. And yet I'm saddened a little bit because AI is so little understood.
Yes.
So this is, if anything, a problem that we marketers know something about. You have something that another person needs to hear about and be galvanized by, and yet you just can't make it simple for them, or they don't seem to have grasped it thus far, right? So how did Paul go about, looking at this? I know around the mid-2010s, you really got interested in this subject. So, what was your drive to try to change that?
Yeah, I mean, I like to explain it as it was just a curiosity. So I think it tells the story in the book about IBM Watson winning on Jeopardy in 2011. And that was sort of a inflection point for me where I looked at it and said, well, what is that technology? How did that work? How is it answering questions, that, beating the best humans at answering questions. And so I just went on a discovery of what is it and how can it be applied, and could I eventually apply it to marketing? And so that was really what drove it. And then I just started reading books that were available. There was nothing about AI for marketing. Back in 2011, 12, no one was talking about AI being applied to marketing. So I just read books on artificial intelligence, and I took a couple of online courses a few years later and really just tried to piece it together. And I come at things as a storyteller first. That's my background, was a journalism background. And so the idea was, eventually, could we tell the story of AI? Could we make other people care about it? Could we make them see the opportunity it had in their career and in their businesses to advance themselves and to build smarter organizations? And so that's how we approached it, was first trying to understand it ourselves. What is it? Can it be applied to marketing? Can it make us better at our jobs? Then trying to take this abstract idea that a lot of people honestly see as sci-fi and very futuristic, like they don't think AI can be used today. And how do we make them see that it can? And so we've gone through years of trial and error of trying to tell the story in different ways to make people realize that it's now and it can really help them.
Yeah, it sure can. In fact, it is helping us today. Stepping outside of our marketing roles, you point out how widely used it is by not only the Googles and Microsofts that you've mentioned, but Netflixes, et cetera, et cetera. Can you just typify for us what it is that those platforms are doing that makes them seem so gosh darn easy to work with and intuitive?
Yeah, I mean, at its core, one way to think about artificial intelligence is it makes predictions. It takes information in. So in the case of Spotify, it takes the music that you like in. So the music, they look at not just things that you literally like, but they look at how long you engage with a song, how many times you listen to a song. So it takes all this data in, and then it predicts what other songs you would like that are like the one you just listened to. And the same way Netflix works, the same way Amazon works, the same way any advanced consumer application works. It's trying to predict human behavior. It's trying to predict things that you would like or that would get you to take an action. And so that is pervasive in every application of marketing. We're trying to predict outcomes and human behavior. And so that was my early instinct with AI was, well, it's just making predictions about outcomes. That is, you hear about like artificial intelligence, sort of this broad, sounds sort of technical in sci-fi. Machine learning, which sounds even more technical in sci-fi, is actually one of the more literal things you'll ever read. It is a machine software that learns, and it learns from data. So that's what happens within all these applications we use, from Gmail to Netflix to Spotify. It's just making predictions, but it does it at like a superhuman speed, and it doesn't have a limit of how much data it can take in to improve those predictions. And that's kind of the core of what AI enables. Right. So, and that's the kind of overlap with humanity there is we have, we're pretty smart, as a species, but we have this wetware in between our ears that has some very finite limits. I mean, neurologists have studied and can tell you using a stopwatch just how slow we are. Yeah. And that's one of the amazing things about the brain. And I've studied some neuroscience to try and understand this stuff a little bit more. But, I think one of the interesting things a lot of people may not realize is we really don't know how the brain works. Like there's an entire field of study around it, but we know very little about how it does what it does so efficiently and how we learn. But that is actually, we tell this story up front a little bit in the book to try and open people's minds. That's what they're trying to do, is they're trying to understand how humans learn so that we can give machines this learning ability. And that's where the AI really comes into play. And that's where we get into like things like language and vision and stuff. Right. And that's where I think, given that, you and I are both kind of the same age, grew up in the late 20th century. I remember talk about AI, but it was all of that, Lost in Space and, sci-fi stuff. But I think what brought AI, into the fore is that we had computers before they connected to the internet, and then, of course, even more after they've been connected to the internet, that were grabbing data.
And data is the lingua franca of both humans and machines. Now, we may speak some data, but we don't do it nearly as well. Yeah. And so they just are, as you say, starting to take predictions. This is simple stuff for them on data. But I think what really makes it interesting, as the book describes, is how data was just the first of many things. So pure numbers, if we think about that, we bring that in through our sense of sight. Mm-hmm. Well, we have been able to figure out how to get computers to hear as well, right? Text to speech. We're now getting them, of course, able to speak. And, on we go through the human senses. They will be able to have the inputs. We may never get them to actually think like like we do. And I want to come back to that at the very end. But we can definitely let them emulate most of what we encounter and use what they do to do it even better. Yep.
Yeah, for sure. And machines excel at processing data. Like, it doesn't have the limitations the human mind does to understand massive amounts of data and in real time. And again, as we get into more conversation around the marketing application, think about it. I saw one stat recently that the average enterprise has 108 SaaS products in marketing and sales, like 108. Every one of those creates a data stream that should inform the actions we take and the strategies we build. So that was one of the things early on for me, is I just looked at it and said, well, humans are incapable of doing modern marketing on our own. If you think about personalizing a content download, like, okay, so, Glenn downloaded this ebook, so show him this ebook or show him this event. That's fine. I can do that for Glenn. Like, I can look at your contact record and I can figure out how to personalize your individual experience. But if there's 100,000 Glens, I'm done. Like, the human mind literally couldn't, if I'd ever slept, I couldn't come up with how to personalize to 100,000 different individuals. And that was one of my early, wait a second, not only is AI advancing, we can't do what we're supposed to do as marketers without it. Like, we've reached our limits of what we can do to personalize experiences for people.
Yeah, you do say that the bar has been raised. In one point, you say we're de facto performing below our potential.
Yeah. And it's just sort of like if this is true, then this must be true. And that's kind of where I arrived at. It's like, if these things are true, if we can't do these things on our own, then we have to accept we're not achieving our potential as humans and as marketers.
Let's jump into some of the ways that we need to be more savvy about looking at AI, because, again, as long as it's a nice fluffy umbrella term to us, we can be either taken by software vendors, or we frankly won't get down into the get your hands dirty work of making it happen. So you talk about a scale. You talk about the marketer to machine scale. And it kind of reminded me anyway of the, walking down the dairy aisle and seeing the different milk products, and I can go everywhere from the skim to the whipping cream and, the half and half somewhere in the middle. It's kind of a matter of choice, but, maybe explain to us, and I know you also got into how a Tesla works and how all, self-driving cars do. Can you just maybe explain why we would care what these gradients on the scale are for, and how this is going to help us get into AI?
Yeah, one of the early issues we ran into back in 2016 when we started Marketing AI Institute, and we started reviewing these vendors that claimed they were using AI, was there was no way to determine how intelligent their software really was, or how automated it made the task we were trying to achieve. Yeah. So I had a fascination with the autonomous vehicle industry, and I bought my first Tesla in 2018, in large part to understand the AI. At least that's what I told my wife to justify the expense.
Sure.
Was I wanted to see how it was learning. And so what the autonomous vehicle industry has is a industry standard scale. Theirs goes from 0 to 5 of how autonomous a vehicle is. And the main variable is, what does the human driver do in different conditions? And so at Tesla, with its autopilot, which is the most popular, or at least famous version of autonomous driving, is a level 2 out of 5. And the reason is that once you get into level 4, level 3, level 4, and level 5, you in essence can do things without the driver. So level 5 is there's no steering wheel needed. Just say, hey, take me to Ontario, and it will take you there. So we're nowhere close to that right now. But I always look and say, well, that's kind of what we're trying to do in marketing is like, what does the marketer have to do? So if I buy this AI software to help me with email marketing or social media management or ad management, whatever it is, what does the marketer still have to do once I buy this software? And so for a couple years, I wanted to devise a way to do this and I couldn't come up with it. And then I finally sort of like cracked the code one night when I was trying to build a presentation on this topic. And I ended up coming with this marketer to machine scale where 0 is all human all the time. So it's what most of your software is. Yeah. Someone created software to let you send emails, but you as the marketer write all the rules. You figure out which segment to send it to, what subject line to use, the body, copy, CT. You figure out everything. It's not actually automating anything for you.
True.
Yeah, you just like, you get in and you drive. You do
I have to push the button, right?
Yes. And then it doesn't get smarter. Like next time you send the email, it doesn't recommend a subject line for you based on the previous ones. It doesn't change the email, the audience segments you're sending to. It doesn't change send time based. It doesn't learn anything. So what we were trying to say is like, okay, so if we're at level 0, all human all the time, what does level 1 look like? Like, what is the AI helping me do? And how much time am I saving? And that's really what it comes down to at each of the levels. So level 4 is like all machine. You just give it a goal. We're not there. We're not even close to that within marketing. Right. But what we say in the book is level 1 and level 2 are really good. Like if I spend 20 hours a month figuring out what content to write about, like which blog post to do, what the titles should be, looking at my existing posts, figure out what to republish. I'm spending 20 hours a month doing that. And the best I'm doing is looking at analytics data and some keywords and taking some educated guesses.
On averages, let's remember.
Right. Versus the machine looking at all of that same data and then a bunch of other data points I don't have the time to look at and recommending things to me that I, as the human, then say, that's a really good recommendation. Yeah, let's write these 5 posts. Maybe I'm now spending 2 hours. Like that's what we're trying to do. It's like, it didn't take your job away from you. It just cut 18 hours off of the stuff you don't really enjoy doing anyway. So now you can get to creating stuff. And so that's what the marketer machine scale is all about, is at a task level, how much of it is being intelligently automated by the machine.
The part of it also that suspended my concern is when we talk about how much time did it save you, we're imagining that an hour of my marketing time is fungible, that I can just, say it's going to achieve this end. Mm-hmm. I've been in marketing almost 3 decades. I have not been ever in a situation where I say 1 hour from now, I'm going to be this much closer to achieving the business's top level goal. How do I know to do it? Experiment, trial and error, and it's not probable. Now, with many iterations, I kind of get better at it. I see what's working. You're telling me that this is not only, making those recommendations and moving it along at a level 2, but that by doing that, if I'm cooperating with it, I'm increasing the probability. I'm narrowing the margin of error on hitting my goals.
Correct. Yeah. And I think that's what we always tell people is AI is just smarter technology. So it should reduce the time you have to spend on tasks, often through intelligent automation of repetitive tasks. So if you have these 7 steps you go through, it can help you do those faster. And then it should give you a greater probability of achieving your outcomes. And if it doesn't do those things, you shouldn't buy it. Like you don't need AI. Right. You need technology that helps you be better at your job and aligns with business goals. Because if you walk into the C-suite and say, I want to go buy 5 AI tools, it's like, for what? Like, what is that for? It's like, hey, I think I found a way to get to goal 20% faster with 20% less budget. They're like, awesome. Do that. They don't care that it's AI tools, but that's what it enables.
Yes, but I haven't yet found a human being that could crank out that kind of accuracy and prediction. We're awful at doing this. So beating a human at prediction is actually a pretty low bar.
Yeah, humans suck at prediction. I like I say all the time, like you, I've been doing this for 20 some years. I got out of college in 2000, and I am constantly amazed by my inability to predict what's going to work. And it's a very humbling thing.
We have to be honest about that.
Yeah, to be a strategist and say, like, I think I got it. Like, I think this is it. And then you do the thing, and it's like, shoot, man, no, I didn't get anything. Like, what was that all about? That was it. And then you have the thing that you're like, well, let's just try this because I don't know, it's just an interesting idea, and that's the thing that works. And it's like, how? So yeah, I mean, I think the best marketers accept that we're not good at predicting what's going to work, but we're very scientific in our approach to experimentation. And what AI does is it enhances that experimentation process because you can take in more information about what worked and what didn't, and it helps you make smarter decisions each time, and that compounds. So just keep learning.
Right. And let's be, truthful. AI is a piece of this. Another piece that people are moving along the lines of is data science, and they're bringing in data scientists. And I think you take a kind of a big tent view here. In the book, you say that, we may sometimes see a difference when we bring in someone, and at the very least, they're going to be able to corral the data so that an AI can use it properly. So you're looking down on data science. You think it needs to be part of this as well.
Oh, 100%. And, I think there's some confusion as to where does data science end and machine learning begin? And is machine learning a part of data science? And, and to me, it's unclear. I've studied this for 11 years, and I think the data scientists struggle to explain the difference. But the way I look at it is, and this is the way I always try to figure out, how do I explain this to the average person? Because I'm the average person. Like, how did it make sense to me? Right. So data scientists are really, really good at finding information within data sets, but they have to spend time and energy crunching the information and then figuring out what actions to take as a result of it. And then the actions don't improve until the data scientists look at the data again and analyze it again and tell you what the insights are from it.
We have another Friday morning meeting to,
So maybe it's a week interval or a month interval or a year interval before the data scientists look at the email marketing data set or the analytics data set and say, okay, marketer, here's what you should do now. With machine learning applied to it, the data is being processed in real time, and insights are being discovered in real time that it should improve your decision-making and strategies. And so I see data science and machine learning as very complementary. Like I don't differentiate. It's like, okay, I need a machine learning engineer and a data scientist. Like I think they have to work in unison. But again, I'm not a data scientist. So I don't come from like one stance to the other. I just, as a marketer, it's like, well, I need both. Like I need data scientists, help me make sense of this stuff. And I need machine learning engineers who can talk to the data scientists and build things. Like, I don't think it's one or the other.
No, I don't think we're yet at the point where we can be purists or, prescriptive about it. If you find yourself with a lot of data that can't currently be used and you need a data scientist to clean it up, this is where they are. We're going to delve into some of the specific applications of AI, which you have a whole section of the book devoted to. But before we do that, we're going to take a really quick break.
Need to break away from our conversation for a message about something that almost every marketer is affected by. Google moving us from Universal Analytics, or UA, to Google Analytics 4. After June 30, 2023, GA4 will be the only way to see our analytics. Its data is all new, too, meaning there's no easy way to bring UA reports you knew and loved to the GA4 interface. Since GA4 only starts collecting data once it's installed, companies wonder how they'll get everything, both past and future data, reported through this new interface. Is the only option to make it all over from scratch? No, there's another way. All the web analytics data that's in the interface is also available in Google's cloud database. B2B companies have data in silo systems that could be combined with this raw data to see their entire funnel. This enables you to fetch answers you'd never get from the old Google Analytics. You can use data anywhere in your company, visualize interactions with prospects to better learn how they like to be treated. Have people who always ask for the same data? Make an automated dashboard for them. The learning curve for marketers here is steep. That's why I am leading a live workshop to get you there. The GA Fast Forward workshop goes beyond installing GA4 and setting up conversions with Tag Manager. You'll learn how to normalize data coming from ad platforms and internal systems and pipe them to Google Cloud. Google Data Studio will then present it in the best way for getting your story across. By working directly on the tools for 2 days plus post-workshop support, you'll become very confident in using them. The first workshop is in Ottawa this October. It's also being held in other cities, so put yourself down to be notified when yours comes up. Those who want to take advantage of the Google Analytics stack should check out this program by visiting gafastforward.com. You can spell forward with the numeral 4 in the middle, as in GA4, or the normal spelling of the words to get there. That's it for the message.
Okay, so thanks for not going anywhere. We're welcoming you back with Paul Roetzer, and we're talking about marketing artificial intelligence. So, Paul, after we get through the first section of the book, you then start to slice it very finely into the areas that we live and work in every day. Yeah. And you separate things out like AI for content marketing and for analytics and for advertising, SEO, et cetera. I'm just going to, hit you, rapid fire with a few of these because we don't have time to get to all of them. But, if we look, for example, at content marketing and conversational engagement with people, let's say on websites, can you help me understand maybe how AI is going to do a better job than, let's say, a branching discussion that I may have written down into a certain tool?
Yeah, I mean, I can give a practical example from Marketing AI Institute. So content marketing is one of the core areas. So my agency, PR 2020, formerly PR 2020, now Ready North, which I sold last year, we were a content marketing agency. So that was one of the early areas of focus. But the Marketing AI Institute is a media company. So we think of our current business as largely a content business. And so one of the ways we use AI is to look at our 800 plus articles we've published over the last 6 years and help us identify opportunities to improve our organic rankings by republishing content, but not just changing the date and republishing it, enhancing it. So we use MarketMuse as the platform we use to do this, where it actually looks at specific posts and it tells us which ones it recommends that we should refresh. And then it actually guides us on how to refresh it. It'll suggest which questions to answer within the post. And so we'll go in and we'll enrich these posts and then we'll republish them. So we're using AI from a planning perspective. We're using it from a production perspective. And then in different ways, we're also using it within personalization and promotion of the content. So that's a content example, very practical. And then conversational, a lot of chatbots, people assume chatbots are AI. They're not. Most of the chatbots you see are rules-based. If someone just wrote branching logic, if Glenn clicks on this, then show him that kind of thing.
Yes.
AI, when you get to the site, should know Glenn is a customer. Glenn is a loyal customer. He is a promoter of our brand. Like, this is a good person that we should be having a great experience with. We should know all of this before Glenn asks a single thing of the chatbot. It shouldn't say, "What are you here for, Glenn?" It's like, well, you already know what I'm here for. I was on a call with your customer service agent this morning and I'm not happy anymore. Like, right. You should know that. So a true conversational agent, should tie in your content. Like, it should know the kinds of things you're looking for, the intent. I should be able to surface relevant content to you. I should be able to have a conversation with you that's relevant, hand you off to a human when needed. That's the kind of stuff that it enables from a content perspective and a conversation perspective.
Got it. And in that, I think we're also moving past, you mentioned on having a lot of content.
there is still value to people understanding which keywords, they were trying to describe on a certain piece of content. But AI is able to take a good crack at what the visitor's intent was. So even if they don't use the exact keyword, it can guide them to the information that's going to help them.
Yeah, you hear a lot about, I hear a lot about, I don't know if the average person reads about these, but large language models. So the way Google search works is with a large language model. The Google AI researcher who recently was put on leave for thinking that Google's language model was sentient is because what's happening is these language models, which is what powers the machine's ability to understand us, our human language, and to generate language back to us or write or speak to us through Siri and Alexa. This is all language models.
Yeah.
It understands the context of words and the meaning and the intent behind questions. So yes, it is no longer just, here's the 3 key words I want to, optimize around.
Just match. Yeah.
Right. It is. Someone may ask a question like, I don't know, B2B buyer, like, how do I find the most affordable software for email marketing or something like that?
Uh-huh.
That might be the question. But what they might really be asking may be related to like AI software. Like they might not know to look for AI software, but that might be the thing they're actually looking for because the machine knows that to do the more affordable, you need a smarter solution, which uses machine learning, whatever.
Sure.
But it takes all these different questions, different ways humans ask basically the same thing, and it tries to cluster them together. It's like Google search for 20 years, the perfect, the single answer. So when I ask Google Home or Siri, I only get one shot. Like I get one answer back. So they're trying to give the perfect answer to whatever they think you intended to ask.
Right.
And so that's the idea now of content in the future. It's like contextual, like it has to go beyond just keywords.
Sure. We go back 100 years. I said horseless carriage and somebody else said, you must mean a car.
Yes.
Right. So, am I right that these are like what Bert and Mum, these newer ones that we're hearing, these are part of the larger language models?
Yes. And Lambda is the one that got the AI researcher at Google in trouble. And GPT-3, OpenAI, you'll hear a lot about GPT-3 can write blog posts and ads and social shares. It's a language model. They're all based on these language models, large language models, they're called.
Right. And again, just, I know we're jumping out of the individual applications here, but a reminder to people that what Paul is saying not only can apply to text, because that's what these are going after, vision is also able. So Mum, for example, I saw a demonstration where a person, again, probably didn't have the word for something, but they had the image for it. And they were asking like, where can I buy this product? And so the search engine is taking in both the text and the image and saying, oh, well, it's right at your corner store. Just, I know where you are. Just go over there. And by the way, they're open right now.
Yeah, the technical term is multimodal. So if you listen to Sundar give like his keynotes at the Google I/O conference, you will hear multimodal a lot. And what it means is the ability to take in language, images, videos, like all these different, what to them are data inputs, like the voice and text. It's all just inputs for the machine. And so, yes, the more of that it can take in, the more it can learn about its environment and what humans are trying to do.
Great. So we are, let's say that we understand what some of these use cases are. We've picked some of the ones that we think could work in our organization. We now need to discover what vendors there are out there that do it. And we need to ask them some pointed questions about, how they're using it. They may be just sprinkling in AI, or it may actually be what is at the core of their entire application. What are some tips that you can give us on how to do that?
Yeah, so the way I always explain it is, again, it's just smarter technology, but you do need to ask some different types of questions. So a few key areas is, one, you need to understand the company, that they are actually invested in building smarter technology. So there are a lot of vendors that are just claiming AI or machine learning or natural language processing or some application of AI. but they may not be fully committed to building smarter technology. It's going to make you better and grow your business smarter. So to understand what you're looking for at a company level. And so what I'll tell people is like, you want to see the CEO talking about AI. Like you want to understand that it is infused into what they're building, that they believe there are better ways to build the technology that you're going to use. You want to understand the technology itself. And this gets back more to the marketer to machine scale of how is this going to make me more efficient at my job? Like, here's what my job looks like today. What will it look like once I have this software? How long is it going to take for the software to get me more efficient? Like, am I going to have to invest more time up front to train the AI, or is it going to just out of the box know how to do all this? And I'm going to immediately start saving 8% of my time. So you have to understand the basics of what AI is so you can ask some smart questions. The other area to think about is your team. Do I even have the people on my staff who can do this? And a lot of the companies that are building the coolest technology are venture-funded startups. They may only be a few years old. So they don't have HubSpot-esque onboarding teams and customer success teams. And so you might get sold on this awesome product for $500 a month or $100 a month or whatever it is, and then get in and realize like, oh, there's no real onboarding materials and my team doesn't know how to use this. And so I've got all these amazing AI features now, but nobody on my team's capable of actually executing it. I'll give you a cool example that's a very approachable product.
Go for it.
We use Descript, so Descript, for podcasting, for our webinars. We do transcription, we do editing. It's amazing. It's like one of the coolest AI companies I've seen. And it's like, I don't know, we pay like $30 a month or something silly, like cheap. They have incredible training videos. Like I know Kathy, who you recently interviewed on our team, Kathy McPhillips, she told me the other day, she did a webinar with Descript where they were like walking through the features. She's like, it's one of the best webinars I've ever seen. Like made it so easy to use this technology that historically we would have had to hire a video producer for.
Right.
That's the kind of thing you're looking for. You're looking for these vendors that have very real tech and that are going to make it easy for your team, non-technical people, to adopt and use this AI that's going to make them instantly better at their jobs. That's what we want out of AI technology.
Yeah. And I think you make a good distinction, and let's, acknowledge it's early days.
Yeah.
They may all appear as companies on, some of those big MarTech landscapes, but, you say some of them, if you really dig down to what they do, they're kind of a feature. And it's very possible they could get consolidated into another company at some point. On the other hand, there are useful things. They could even be just a browser extension right now that uses AI. So like just in your mind, partition these things that, this may be a eventual core part of our stack, but, this part over here, this may be just something that's saving, some repetitive task time that we do every week or month, and to make a distinction there and be ready for there to be some changes.
Yeah. And I think it's a great point for both agencies and for like brand side marketers. If you're an agency, you have to be really careful which vendors you build services around. So my claim to fame.
Excellent point.
Yeah, as PR 2020, we were HubSpot's first partner back in 2007. So I made a decision 2 years into our agency's existence to build our entire service suite around HubSpot. And it ended up being the right bet. So I bet big on HubSpot being a platform that would become influential within the marketing industry, and it did. So that worked. But if right now you're looking here and saying, okay, like I do email marketing and content marketing as an agency, let me go find a couple of AI tools that can help me do it. Then I'm going to build services on top of those. Well, what happens if those companies get acquired? Happens all the time in this space. Yeah. So I would just be, whether you're just looking at your tech stack as a corporate marketer or as an agency, you're trying to build a suite of services that are more intelligent, just be really confident in your ability to assess not only the technology, but the companies behind them and the people that run those companies.
Yeah. And those companies have their own motives too. For those that are in an agency, I'm going to remind them of something that you're well known for having said, which is that, a substantial percent of the tasks that an agency is charging services for today will not be around in 5 years.
Yes, very much. Yeah, the agency world is going to look very, very different. And I know of very few agencies that understand that. Like, I think there's going to be a lot of agencies, especially in the digital marketing space, which
especially in PPC.
PPC, 100%.
Right.
Creative. I mean, until April this year, I didn't think graphic designers were in trouble, illustrators.
Now Dolly too. Yeah.
Yeah, they're very much, the creative game has changed. And I do think language is going to have its Dolly 2 moment in the near future. I mean, you could argue GPT-3 was sort of that, but it's not. Like, it's not that good yet. But language ability, the ability for the machine to write content and eventually create images and videos is accelerating at a rate we have never seen before, faster than Moore's law, faster than the doubling of processing capabilities of the last 50 years. Like, it is hard to understate how good AI will be at generating language 1 year from now, 3 years from now, 5 years from now. It's a totally different world in marketing. And most people either just don't want to accept it, or I don't know what it is, but people
you
just
talk near the end of the book, you talk about 3 possible reactions we can have.
Yeah.
Take us through that.
Well, I think the way it is was like, you can just ignore it. It's like, you can just pretend like it's not happening, and that's not ideal. You can start to embrace it and, adapt yourself and your career. Or you can just like go all in. Like, to me, like I wrote a post actually after the book came out called "The Future of Business is AI or Obsolete." And it was following the same premise as the AI and You chapter. It's basically, your company has 3 options. It can be AI native, so you can build a company from the ground up that's smarter, that uses AI to drive efficiencies and growth. You can be AI emergent, which means you apply AI to your existing business model to build a smarter version of your business model. Or you can be obsolete. So it's the same premise at the individual level, that you can be one of these things, but if you don't embrace AI, your peers will, or your competing companies will, or some startup will, and they're just going to build a smarter version of your business. And so if you're an agency, that's fine. You can ignore AI. Like, we're not going to make you do it. You can think we're crazy and this is all sci-fi stuff still, and fine. But 3 years from now, like, you can't complain to anybody when somebody built a smarter version of your business. Like, I'm not going to do it for agencies now. I have other stuff I'm working on, but there isn't an agency in advertising or email or social or SEO or content that if you gave me the right 5 people, we couldn't in a weekend build a smarter business model for. Like, the tech's there, the processes are there. And so that's my call to everyone is like, this isn't like some overhyped next phase of digital transformation, and you're just like tired of hearing about it, and it's just going to be like all the others, and it'll eventually that's not what this is. Go back to the Sundar Pichai quote. Like, this is the foundation of all of it. Like, the reason Microsoft and Amazon and Meta and Google and Nvidia and Salesforce and Adobe, like all the biggest tech companies in the world, have AI labs, AI divisions, thousands of AI employees, billions of dollars being poured into AI. This is not some overhyped buzzword. It is a fundamental element of the future of business. And that's what we try and convey in the AI and You chapters. Like, you have the choice, but like, don't make the wrong choice. Like, figure this stuff out now.
Yeah. I think one of the things, it's probably our old lizard brains that do this. We imagine that AI is being made so that like it's another human species. And I what made it easy for me to, take your advice of saying, look, it's going to affect you, but think of how you should move up the value chain. We're not trying to make, that iRobot world. We, if anything, are trying to make things that improve us. So your phrase there is machine plus human.
Yeah.
Right. They're really there to, like, that's why we're building them, right? If we even kind of go back to that old myth of Pygmalion, right? We are there to form them in kind of our image and to do our bidding. And that makes, like, you end on a very uplifting note, saying that, if we take that view of it, you say, being an AI pioneer comes with great responsibility. We do have to think about a lot. We got personalization and privacy, and we can't dehumanize things, but we can actually end up making marketing more intelligent and brands more human by doing this. Like, what an ironic place to end up.
Yeah, and I kind of tell it through that the Kai-Fu Lee, used the kind of parallel of his story, and he wrote the book called AI Superpowers, and he was a former president of Google China. But it seemed a little cliche when I was writing it, but it was this whole idea of like what makes humans unique. It's like love and empathy and things we can't give to machines. And so that's the premise of this more human. It was actually the tagline when we launched the Marketing AI conference in 2019. That was the tagline, more intelligent, more human. And the whole premise was, I didn't create this institute or write the book or build a conference or create a community or a movement to give a bunch of hacks to a bunch of marketers who are just going to use this stuff in a negative way to manipulate people's behaviors and emotions. Like, that's the furthest thing from what we want to do. What we're trying to do is say it can augment us. It can intelligently automate some tasks, like eventually maybe even take some of those tasks away from us. It's not taking jobs away. It's not taking career paths away, but it will change those career paths. But if it's done right, the AI should do the repetitive, data-driven stuff that we don't really enjoy anyway. It should help us make smarter decisions because it's going to make predictions about outcomes. And as a result, we should free up our time to focus on empathy and creativity and strategy and relationship building and things like that. Like, that's, for me, if we have enough people focused on AI for good, which we talk about as well as responsible AI, if we think about how to use this in a very positive way, then as an industry, we can make it a net positive. And that's where I think we can land. There are absolutely dark sides to it. There are ways it can go wrong and has gone wrong and will continue to go wrong.
As with all technology, right? Yes. Good or bad.
Yeah, and I don't remember if I used this in the book or not, but I get asked this a lot when I give talks. Like, well, why are we doing it then? Like, if it has all these negative implications, I said, well, we created the internet, didn't we? Like, and it literally has a dark web. Like, the internet is a very evil place in pockets. Yeah. But the net good it has done, you would create it again every time. And AI is going to be the same way. There are going to be things we look back in 10 years and be like, I cannot even believe we enabled a technology that let that happen. And that's going to be the case. It's the case of humans. Like, humans do bad things, but net, we're pretty cool. Like, we're pretty good. I'm glad we're here. And that's how I feel about AI. It's like, yes, it will be used in evil ways by bad actors, but net, it's going to transform humanity and society and business and our industry in a very positive way. I truly believe that.
Yeah. And I think it's going to step literally into those ordinary parts of our lives that we had to think through to build the civilization that we have, which again, we were talking about, is it going to replace humans? Are you kidding? That's where humans are more indispensable than ever. What kind of policies are we going to have? What kind of, things are we going to say that will allow? This definitely not. Yeah. But only a human can, our judgment is what does that, and the ways that we like to form a company together, and let's all get in a room and let's talk this through. How do people feel about this? Like, even those words, you can't put those into code, right? This is, we're going to really be needed for this. More than ever.
Yeah. I try and explain it in the book, but at the end of the day, AI is just math. It's just zeros and ones. It is or it isn't. It's like yeses and nos. It's really impressive math, but it's not sentient. It doesn't have a consciousness. It doesn't have emotions. It can give the impression it understands emotion, but it doesn't.
Right.
It's just making predictions. And it's, I don't know, the headlines in the media, they're going to sensationalize things. They're going to try and make it sound like AI is taking over the world or it's developing a consciousness, and it's not right there.
Right. And that's where I think if anybody does have, it has been misinformed by those things, the book would be where I would point to them so that they can get truly informed. Yeah. So Paul, if people want to find out how to get their hands on the book, where can they go?
marketingaibook.com is the main site. It'll take you to our Marketing AI Institute site. If you're on the Marketing AI Institute site, there is a book link in the top nav. And that'll get you there. And then it's in Barnes & Noble. I actually saw it on day one in Barnes & Noble, which is pretty cool. So it is in bookstores. It's on Amazon. yeah, it's accessible everywhere.
And the name of the institute is Marketing Institute. The name of the annual event that happens each summer is MAICON.
Marketing AI Conference, yes, MAICON.
And if they want to reach out to you personally, where would you send people?
Twitter and LinkedIn. It's just at Paul Roetzer on both. Do at Paul Roetzer on LinkedIn, but that's my URL. And I'm pretty good about LinkedIn messages. I love interacting with people there, and Twitter. Also really good at messaging on Twitter.
I'll vouch for that. Thanks so much for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me, Glenn. It's a great conversation.
Thank you. And to the listener, hope you got value out of this. And I hope that it has dispelled some of those myths and brought AI into being something that you can put into your marketing to make your funnel even better.
Thanks for listening. Follow the show on Twitter at Funnel Reboot. If you like what you have heard today, please consider leaving a review wherever you get your podcasts.